The power of local solutions. Okay, however you are, remember that you are expert in your own area. Sustainable developments cannot be imported. It must be co-created. So it means that technology from outside must be blended with our local experts. Communities provide valuable knowledge that researchers often overlook, such as indigenous wisdom, cultural practices, historical experience, social networks, and environmental understanding. Okay? The most sustainable solutions emerge when scientific knowledge and community knowledge work together. Consider another remarkable example from me. Okay? The Netherlands Room for the River program. After severe flooding in 1990s, Dutch researchers, engineers, policymakers, and communities reimagined flood management. Instead of relying solely on bigger dams and higher barriers, they redesigned landscape to give river more space during periods of the high water. The programs integrated engineering, environmental science, governance, and community engagement across more than 30 projects. The result was not only greater flood protections. The program was enhanced environmental quality, public spaces, and long-term resilience. Okay. This demonstrates that a fundamental principle, while climate change is a global challenge, adaptation must always be a local solution. Then, what you should do as a researcher? So, now we go for the new role of researcher. I believe that most of us here are researchers, based on your content or based on your expert of studies. Okay. The example shows that researchers today must assume broader roles. We are no longer merely producers of knowledge, but we must become, first, as knowledge integrators. Researchers should act as connector for knowledge across disciplines, sectors, and communities to address complex societal challenges. Rather than working within isolated academic boundaries, they synthesize diverse perspectives, data, and expertise to generate holistic and contextually relevant solutions. Number two, innovation partners. Researchers need to collaborate with industry, government, communities, and the civil society to co-create innovative solutions. The role extends beyond discovery to translating research into practical applications, technologies, and services. Next, we go to the third one, policy contributor. Researchers should provide evidence, analysis, and expert insight to support informed policy making. By engaging with policymakers and stakeholders, they help ensure that public policies, development strategies, are grounded in rigorous research and responsive to societal needs, transforming evidence into actionable recommendations. The last one is global citizen. Researchers should recognize their responsibility to address global challenges while respecting local contexts. They engage in international collaborations, promote sustainability and social justice, and contribute knowledge that advance the well-being of communities both locally and globally. The new generations of researchers are not merely knowledge creators, they are knowledge integrators who bridge disciplines, innovations, partners, and who create solutions with stakeholders. Policy contributors who shape evidence-based decisions, and global citizens who address local and global challenges with responsibility, inclusivity, and impact. Next, we go to the collaborative strategies. If sustainable development is our destination, collaboration is the vehicle that will take us to that level. I propose the 5 strategies for this approach. The first one, we go for adopt the quadruple helix model. create partnership among universities, industry, governments, and also communities. When these four sectors work together, research becomes more relevant, scalable, and impactful. So it means that we study the real issues to solve our local problems based on support by the governments. Second, establish living laboratories. Transform communities into innovation ecosystem where solutions can be tested and refined in real settings. All the findings should be tested in real settings, not only in the papers only. You should go beyond that only for the publication. The third one, build transnational research networks. Issues such as climate resilience, sustainable consumption, digital transformation, food security, and renewable energy require global collaborations and local experiments. So by hook or by crook, we must collaborate across country, across region. It's not only for us, for the global impact. Fourth, promote open science. Knowledge should move faster than the problems we seek to solve. Open data sets, share resources, and accessible publication can accelerate with people. Then please publish your paper so that the wisdom, knowledge can be shared all around the world, not only for your own country only. The last one, co-design situation with communities. The most effective innovations are not designed for people. They are designed with people. When communities become partners rather than recipients, adoptions and accessibility increase dramatically. Okay? So lastly, I focus on looking ahead, the three priorities for the researchers. As we move forward, I believe transformative research should focus on three priorities. The first one, research with impact. Move beyond publish or perish. Publish and transform. Even though last few days I talked about publications, but now I say other things. Not only publish, we go also on transforming people in your setting. Number two, research with inclusion. Ensure that innovation benefit both advanced and emerging economies. Third, research with sustainability. Align research outcome with long-term societal well-being and sustainable development goals. With impact, inclusions, and sustainability, converged transformative change become possible. Okay. As for conclusions, ladies and gentlemen, the future will be not shaped by technology alone. It will be shaped by how wisely we apply knowledge. The next transformative breakthrough may emerge not only from a world-class research center. It may emerge from the rural village, local entrepreneurs, a community initiative, and even from the student-led projects. Transformative research provides that bridge, a bridge between discovery and impact, innovations and implementations, global knowledge and local actions, presents challenges and future sustainability. On top of that, sustainable development is not merely an aspiration. It is a collective responsibility among all of us. We don't care who are you are still take part on the sustainable developments. Global innovations provide the possibilities, local solutions provide the relevance, transformative research provide the bridge between the two. Okay? Remember, every expert was a beginner. Every great discovery begins with curiosity and grows through collaborations. How small you are, how insignificant you are, you still have place in the world of research. Please collaborate. And wishing you a success, inspirational and fruitful presentation, collaboration ahead. Thank you.
I'm speechless. I don't know what to say. Thank you very much, Professor. It was an insightful, I don't know, presentation or even a speech, so thank you very much. I think we need to include you in our committee so that you can give us an hints how we can do all these transformations for the team. So thank you very much. You can see that it's not only an idea, or it is a research, or it is a question that you ask yourself, but everything ends with an impact that is going to have a large impact on the society, on the globe, or even your local society. So thank you for the wonderful speech. Now I will welcome on stage the Danish Representation Office here in Somaliland. Camilla, welcome on stage. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and good morning to all of you. Honorable ministers, President, Vice President of universities, Vice Chancellors of universities, professors, also those who do not wish to be called professors, researchers, scholars, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. I have to say that I'm very honored to be here today at the opening ceremony of this first international research conference of the University of Hargeysa. I'm impressed with the breadth and the relevance of the themes chosen to be deliberated here at the conference. I am hugely in awe of the number of participants that will, I hope, enrich the deliberations that are going to be had. And I have to say I'm also completely impressed with the organization of this conference. So a young person, I think, would say a huge shout out to University of Hargeysa. I think from a diplomatic, more appropriate way of conveying the message, it is congratulations to the University of Hargeysa for organizing this main feat. I think the volume of the presentations, the research papers, the panels that you're going to have in the coming days speaks to itself. I think the theme, the global innovation and striving to get local solution is key to all what we are doing. I think there was a speaker earlier today who said that it all starts with the research. But it is not enough to only do research. You need to engage in a communication and a conversation with your partners. You have to establish collaborations in order to get the impact on the ground. Because it is important that we in day-to-day life make sure that our practice, our implementation, our politics is based on evidence, and that comes from research. So with those few words, I'll just say I wish you all the best in your deliberations. Take the chance, use it, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Camilla. Now I will proceed to our program, and I'm going to call here Professor Michael. So you're welcome on stage. Michael is going to do featured research presentation. It's a project that they are going to kick off this year. So Professor Michael will have a few slides that he's going to present because he doesn't have time. The list is long, so you need to be so brief. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This is fine. It's Ali Frankis. Thank you so much.
I don't know how to pronounce.
I know. It's like your last name. So, thank you so much. Guests of honor, honorable ministries, chairs and members of the Board of Trustees, Vice Chancellors, distinguished keynote speakers, representatives of government, distinguished guests, distinguished researchers, distinguished students, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. That was the first. So before I start, I would like also, as everyone else, to congratulate University of Hargeysa. First international conference. We have been partnershiping with University of Hargeysa for 3 years, building strong universities, and it was just the idea of having international conference, you started to have that already from the beginning on. And to be honest, from a Danish point of view, said, take it easy, take it easy. We're here now. And I know that the committee have worked, thank you, the committee have worked so much on this. And of course, the next 2 days, and then you can relax. And then in 5 years' time, you can say, we did it. And this is the first, and I'm sure the next one will be even more relaxed, and you'll be more secure. But it's already now, it's impressive, and so grateful to be here, and also honored to be able to speak to you. And I think what I'm going to present is a quite good example of what partnership is, what equal partnership is, and what potential collaboration can develop into. So this is a new project that is just recently been funded by Danita, and thank you so much for that. That is a collaboration between University of Hargeysa and University of Copenhagen and Danish Technical University, and also South-South collaboration with KCMC University in Tanzania. And we are focusing on anemia, and I will just briefly tell you about the project. We are just launching the project on Thursday, so it is really new. And you might have a lot of questions to this, and I have too. Anyway, so anemia, the burden of anemia, you are very well aware, I'm sure, that this is a major challenge globally. And of course, in particular to, I'll just see if this is, no, pointer's not, oh, anyway. 40% of all children aged 6 to 6 years of age, and 37% of pregnant women and 30% of women between 15 and 49 years of age are affected by anemia. And this is talking about mild to severe anemia, all classes of anemia. And in particular in Sub-Saharan Africa, it is a major challenge, of course, and we need to do something about it. And we are aware that this is a challenge. And when we home in on Somaliland, there's limited evidence to suggest that, of course, anemia is a challenge as well in Somaliland. From a study in Somaliland, this study found that 43% were anemic in children at 5. And when we home in on school-age children, which is the focus of this study, another study in Burao found that the prevalence of anemia, and again mild to severe anemia, was 23%. So the problem is here that anemia is really a complex matter. And we, in particular for Somaliland, we don't know what the causes are of anemia. Now this is a bit challenging here, but the main thing is that it is multifactorial. We have both due to micronutrient deficiencies, due to food insecurity, poor quality of foods, that can lead to anemia. Then we have infections, and now we're just focusing on school-age children here. It can be infections, and we're talking about malaria here, of course. And being a malaria person, this is also why I think this is where I can contribute. But also other infections, bacterial infections, viral infections. But of course also the overlaying problem is limited access to health services and also inadequate access to water and sanitation. Then, which is also a challenge in particular in Sub-Saharan Africa, inherited red blood cell disorders. And this is, for instance, sickle cell anemia and also, of course, alpha thalassemia. But then when we focus on school-age children, we have another challenge, and that is that several studies have found that anemia impacts on the development, the cognitive and motor development function of school-age children. And these studies mainly from other countries of Eastern Africa and also some in West Africa show that, and this is related to malaria, this is because I'm a malaria researcher, but either way that malaria in asymptomatic school-age children with lower, in those, the condition and they scored lower compared to those that were uninfected, but also that reduced anemia, and that could be by malaria prevalence measures, could also be against worm infections, improve motor and cognitive function. And last but not least, iron deficiency anemia was associated with lower cognitive scores among adolescents. So this is sort of the evidence that there's a relationship between anemia and also development of motor and cognitive development. So, as mentioned, this is a study that is just taking off now. It's a 5-year study. It is, with all due respect, DANIDA and Ministry of Foreign Affairs, is not major funding, but it is enough funding to be able to go further with this and to have an impact. It is a collaboration, as mentioned, between University of Copenhagen and University of Hargeysa, and also Danish Technical University, in case you see University in Tanzania. And a major prerequisite is for the funding, but also for this kind of studies, is first of all that it's multidisciplinary, but also that there's as part of it is capacity development, which falls very much in place of what we've been doing for years, but also in collaboration with University of Hargeysa on the Building Stronger University program. And I'll of course come back to that because this is where we think we will impact also. So the general objective is to improve health of school-aged children in Somaliland by providing evidence-based and context-sensitive recommendations for preventive measures against leading cause of anemia. And we have a lot of specific objectives leading both regarding basically the causes of anemia, and I've mentioned that before, but also to explore motor cognitive development also as part of the project itself, but also, and I'll come back to that, to the engagement of stakeholders in the co-creation process when we have the data to be able to make an intervention. And I'll come back to that. And then as mentioned, last but not least, we have to have recommendations based on our findings, and we have different channels to do that on, but also we want to strengthen the capacity at University of Hargeysa. So, looking at risk factors and anemia, and now it's getting a little bit nerdic, I'm sorry for that, but we are looking at anthropometrics, and here we have already with us now machines that we brought to measure body fat, muscle mass index, and so forth. Directed measures, that is a science by itself. We have some good capacities that are able to do that, but we'll make questionnaires-based surveys on that. Then we have a lot of factors that we have to measure. Hemoglobin, of course, but folic acid, B12, and a lot of other markers. And in Hargeysa and University here, we already have the machine to do it. Then we will look at infections, and this is the only thing I know anything about. We have microscope, of course, but we also have installed as part of BSU program, and also another DANIDA-funded project, PCRs to do diagnostics. So we're able to at least to look at most likely some of the bacterial infections, but also malaria, of course, using PCR. But what we also want to do, and that is state of the art, and this is why we have Danish Technical University here, and this is getting much too nerdy, but we have something called next generation sequencing, and we will try to implement this in the next coming years also. Then human genetics, this is also something that we can do with PCR. Anyway, and then we have the whole impact of cognitive and motor function, where we have a lot of tests here to measure oxygen use, to measure cognitive function, and to measure academic performance. And we also have some experts among us. And again, this is a multidisciplinary research, and we need all the experts. What is really important for this particular matter is, of course, our experts on that is mainly from Denmark, and we have to adapt to local conditions, of course. So we have a lot of advocacy for what we want to do before we can do any of these. And hopefully we'll visit a school or two on Wednesday just to see the scene, because we have no idea, at least from a Danish point of view. The study sites are in Boroma and Berbera, both places wonderful, but also highly affected, at least from my knowledge, on malaria, at least Boroma is, when there's transmission, but also other infectious diseases. So that's also why we home in on these two. And what we're going to do is, first of all, 2 cross-sectional studies. in school-age children. We have a certain number of schools, and we'll involve a certain number of school participants. And there are some, I will not bore you with the details, sample size calculations mainly made on one of Faisal Norifis here, who have done the calculations. And then as measured, all the other measures here, those will be retrospectively done in the lab, and we will have all this basis. But of course, when we are at the school, we'll test, the idea is to test for motor and cognitive and academic performance as well. Why we're doing 2 cross-sectional studies is to try to capture some kind of transmission intensity with some of these infections, because they are affecting differently depending on the seasonality. Can you plug this block? Can it go away? It's a secret. Here we go. And then, as mentioned also before, what is really, really important, yes, writing publication, getting famous, getting top 2, whatever, but this is not the main point. The main point is to engage stakeholders for the next step in a co-creational process. We want to make a workshop where we have the data from our studies, and those are key stakeholders, which is local school teachers and parents, for instance, but also administrative staff, and of course representatives of the Ministry of Health and Education, and then of course staff of the researchers also. For that, we want to, the output of that is to design a pilot-based study, and again, funding is a challenge here, but a pilot-based study on findings, and then select 2 or 3 of the top priorities regarding anemia and to prevention of anemia, and of course considering logistics, considering cost-benefit. And we have Khalid, who is here, who is an expert in that, which is fantastic also. And that could be, for instance, close to my heart, preventive measures against malaria, but it could also be deworming campaigns and so forth. That's the idea. But based on evidence that we have from the cross-sectional studies. And the scope is to measure the impact of what we have in our intervention, and we will expect, we hope, 10% reduction in anemia. And then we have some secondary outcomes also, which is biomarkers, malaria infections also, and then also the performance of the school children regarding cognitive development also, that we can actually measure. And we might also have a chance here because we want to do this within 1 year, and that is very ambitious. And the number of students that will include is also very ambitious. Let's see, but that's the dream at least. As mentioned, most importantly, we want to come further with this. Hopefully, inshallah, we will prove that we have some interventions that make sense. And then we want to make, of course, policy briefs, but engage in the ministries in that, and how to prevent anemia. Other recommendations is also on the behavioral patterns of how to improve the daily life, the physical health of the young kids here also. And then advocacy materials, and Hargeysa, University of Hargeysa, you are very good in doing advocacy, and we'll just link up to you because you can do it anyway. Just your LinkedIn profile. So that is hopefully what comes out of it, and the hope is, of course, that we can implement our findings on a national context. And I truly believe we can. So this is a very big design on what we want to do, and we'll just focus on what is this last point, just focus on what we think is, of course, central for all collaboration when we have this type of projects, and that is research capacity development. And the idea, of course, is to strengthen the capacity of research in University of Hargeysa, and this also includes South-South collaboration. This is also why we have KCMC University in Tanzania on board also. We've already identified 2 PhD students, Mahmoud Ahmed, I don't know if you are here. Good, welcome. Thank you. And also Rhoda Muhammad also, and there's different kind of aspects to what they're going to do, and we will, the next coming months, of course, shape that up in a nice fashion. So they know what actually, but it's a big study, to be honest. Capacity development in the lab, and I'll just mention a little bit about that. So what we think after the project, what we will deliver is knowledge on micronutrients, diagnostic tools of doing basic bacterial work, but also on a more state-of-the-art scale, looking at sequencing. That is the dream that we will hopefully will deliver. But also capacity levels will deliver disciplines related to physiology and movement science itself, which is, as far as I know, is completely new to University of Hargeysa. I'm soon done. But there's a lot of synergies here. And thanks to our funders, we have secured, first of all, together University of Hargeysa, this Building Stone University platform, which is partly funding this year anyway. But also the newest project that is now quite, I think, almost halfway, David Soma, which is another project focusing on malaria in Somaliland, and they have evolved into establishing the lab in University of Hargeysa. There was hardly anything there now, but we are slowly getting it up and running, and our student is presenting later tomorrow also on some of the data. Should I go over here? But as mentioned, our project now, we will, inshallah, install new technologies for sequencing, but also the mind-ray system here. Finally, I would like to thank collaborators here. Faisal Noor is my counterpart, co-PI, hopefully is here also. Great, thank you. He is central for everything for this project, but also, of course, here, and Jonah and Umar and Khalid also are central for the whole project. And then I've lost a lot of Danish partners here, and even represented, they are over here. We have Helle and we have Philip from DTU, and then we also have Karin somewhere over there. And we are a fantastic group because research, you are not an island. Like me, I know nothing about anything else but malaria. I need all this to be able to do this. And that's why we are a team, and this is what is needed, and this is what's needed for the future also. So, with all this, thank you so much. I hope I spelled it correctly. Marcelle, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Michael, for the good presentation. As the professor has mentioned it earlier, Hafaz, he talked about co-creation, and you can see even from the project that we are implementing at the university, we still consider to co-create with the stakeholders. And that's how we came up with everything that's happening at the University of Hargeysa. We usually do stakeholder engagements where we ask all our different partners what the kind of hot issues that's happening on the ground. And then again, that's how we implement the research week, the researches that we are doing, and everything that's happening on ground. So thank you, Professor Michael. For those of you who doesn't know, for the project emphasis is going to be launched on the 20th of this month. Yeah, it is a huge month. We are going a lot of activity. This one, then the 20th, then the graduation. Yeah, it's a big one, but we can do it. So it's going to happen here at Ambassador on the 20th of August 2026. And for those of you who are interested, you are welcome to attend. Now I'm going to move. I promised the participants and the audience, we have a few people, and then we will finish. We will go to the grand banal. Sorry, so bear with me. Now I will go to the keynote addresses, those who are going to provide the keynote addresses. And the first person I'm going to welcome on stage, it is Dr. Mahmoud Musa Jibril, the president of University of Amoud University. So welcome, and welcome him with me. So do.
Thank you. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Honorable ministries and government officials present, presidents, vice presidents, vice chancellors of universities present, distinguished professors, researchers, and scholars, development partners, and private sector representatives present, early career researchers, and postgraduate students, ladies and gentlemen, a very pleasant and good morning to all of you. It is a great honor and privilege for me to address this first International Research Conference of the University of Hargeysa under the theme Transformative Research for Sustainable Development, Global Innovations, and Local Solutions. That is very important to our country. This conference brings together researchers, scholars, policymakers, practitioners, and development partners from 17 countries and 44 institutions across Africa, Asia, and Europe. This is a significant moment for the University of Hargeysa, for universities in Somaliland as a whole. The conference provides platform for 99 oral presentations and 20 poster presentations organized around 5 thematic areas. But to me, this conference is about much more than presenting research paper, and this value should not be measured by just the number of institutions, countries, and papers presented here. It is about providing answers to two fundamental questions. How do we begin to embrace and use research to change lives, strengthen institutions, and contribute to the sustainable development of Somaliland and beyond? Where does our higher education institutions fit in these metrics? To me, we are engaging in a conversation about future of research, higher education, and national development of our country and beyond. Let me begin. Transformative research, sustainable development, global innovation, and local solutions, what and why, to say a brief information. When it comes, transformative research is a research formulated to produce significant fundamental paradigm shift in knowledge by challenging established assumptions, introducing fundamentally new approaches, and creating breakthroughs that can change how a concept is understood and addressed. It's a research that has the potential to change existing paradigms or create new ones. Transformative research is not only innovative, but it has also a high potential magnitude of change and impact. For Somaliland, transformative research means conducting research that responds to our real development priorities that includes, but are not limited to, improving maternal and child health, strengthening education, addressing climate change and drought, improving agricultural and livestock systems, promoting economic transformation, strengthening governance and peace and development, the skills and human capital needed for the future. Transformative research is particularly important for Somaliland because we face real, immediate challenges in health, education, climate change, livelihoods, governance, peace, economic development, human capital. I am glad that this conference has recognized these challenges and seeks to connect academic research with practice. Whereas sustainable has been with us since time immemorial, it gained a prominence after 2015 when the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development was adopted by United Nations member states. It is not my intention to labor this point. Suffice to say that I will adopt the definitions and all terms and concepts as United Nations 2015 with all the 17 goals and 169 targets. Sustainable development means meeting today's development needs while protecting the ability of future generations to meet their demand or their needs, their own needs. Taking in the spirit of this conference, the whole idea of sustainable development means that our universities must now integrate sustainability into teaching and learning, research, innovation, community engagement, governance, infrastructure, human resource management, and in all institutions operations. Our universities must become places where evidence is generated, discussed, and transformed into practical solutions for our society. This is particularly important for Somaliland because our economic and social development is closely connected to natural resources, climate conditions, water availability, livelihood, livestock, agriculture, energy, and environment. For Somaliland, sustainable development is not just about environmental conservation, but rather a comprehensive development approach for connecting economic transformation, social inclusion, environmental sustainability, climate resilience, institutional development, peace, and improved quality of life. This requires our universities to generate local solutions that can be adopted at a global level. Allow me to emphasize 2 points here. These 2 points, transformative research and sustainable development, are intertwined and are inseparable. While transformative research provides evidence, sustainable development provides the long-term development goals. Global innovations provide access to new technologies, methodologies, knowledge, and experiences from around the world. There is a great deal that we can learn from the rest of the world. New technologies, artificial intelligence, digital health, climate smart agriculture, innovative approaches to education, renewable energy, and new models of governance can provide important opportunities, but innovation cannot simply be copied from one context to another. A solution that works somewhere else might not automatically work here in Somaliland. Local solutions must be grounded in Somaliland's realities, institutions, culture, environment, and community knowledge. This is what makes locally generated research important. We must globally but adapt locally. This global knowledge should inform local research and local evidence should contribute to global knowledge. There are 2 models. Model 1, adapting global innovations to local contexts. That means use universal knowledge to solve local problems. Model 2, develop local solutions that are capable of global applications. Okay, so which model is good for universities in Somaliland? Both of them are correct. What about the status of research in higher education in Somaliland? From point of my view, the research function in higher education institutions in Somaliland is emerging and is still underdeveloped relative to teaching and degree awarding function. While the number of higher education institutions has grown from 1997 to 34, including 8 public universities, the growth in the number of universities has not translated into a strong national research system. Research remains predominantly linked to academic work as a requirement for award of degrees, and while this provides a good foundation for research capacity, a more nature research system is required to move beyond this to continue well-funded, strategic, and institutionally coordinated research programs. The higher education sector is fast developing and beginning to increasingly engage in national and international research networks. Our universities are beginning to produce researchers and postgraduate students and to engage in partnerships and contribute to national discussions on important development questions. This conference itself demonstrates this growing research capacity. Researchers from Somaliland are sharing platforms with scholars from universities and institutions across Africa, Asia, and Europe. The participation of institutions such as the University of Hargeysa, Amud, University of Porto, and international partner universities demonstrates an emerging research ecosystem. In the overall, opportunity before us is much greater, and the next stage must move from individual research projects to stronger individual research systems, from research outputs to research impact, from isolated studies to sustained research programs, and from academic publications to evidence that informs policies, services, and community development. What should this conference achieve for research in Somaliland? 5 points. Strengthening research networks and institutional partnerships, connecting research with policy and practice, strengthening of early career researchers, interdisciplinary research, translate research to policy. Beyond this conference, distinguished guests, the most important day of this conference must actually be the day after it ends. We must ask ourselves, what happens next? 5 points. Sustain research collaboration, strengthen research funding, strengthen research infrastructure and capacity, stronger links between research and government policy, and 5, culture of impact. May this international research conference of the University of Hargeysa be a great success, bring forth fruitful discussions, meaningful partnerships, and most importantly, lasting impact. This is not only our opportunity, it is also our responsibility. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you to the president of Amud University. Ducada aamin baan leenahay, aad baad u mahadsantahay gudoomiyaha Jaamacadda Amud. And now I will welcome on stage our second keynote address, Professor Ayub, the Vice Chancellor of University of Nairobi. Welcome on stage.
Thank you, thank you.
Sorry, I didn't want to pronounce your other name wrongly.
That's okay, that's okay. The chairperson of the University of Hargeysa Council, the president, vice chancellors present, honorable ministers and members of government, distinguished university leaders, members of the diplomatic corps, development partners, esteemed researchers and scholars, students, distinguished guests, good morning. Good morning. Yeah, we have had a lot of very good speakers this morning. Sometimes the unfortunate bit is after they have talked, they have said about everything, so you're not very sure what you have to say. But before I go to the speech that was prepared, I like the issue of co-creation. We also have to understand and appreciate the issue of health. We have had a very good speech from our Professor Michael, and how you can link health and education. Professor Abdul talked about a very good innovative model, the M-Pesa, that originated from Kenya and now being applied the world over. We have to commend the University of Hargeysa for this first University International Research Conference, and having involved 17 countries and over 45 institutions. That shows the trust and confidence in the university and the country. Let's clap for all of us. It is an honor to join you at the inaugural University of Hargeysa International Research Conference. I thank the University Council, the conference organizing committee, and the leadership of this institution for inviting me to deliver this keynote address. I congratulate the University of Hargeysa for bringing research, innovation, and sustainable development to the center of this conversation. A conference that brings researchers, policymakers, industrial leaders, development partners, and universities into the same room creates an important opportunity for knowledge to move beyond academic discussion and find its way into policy and practice. I bring warm greetings from the University of Nairobi, Kenya's premier university and one of Africa's leading institutions of higher learning. Our conference theme, Transformative Research for Sustainable Development, Global Innovation, Local Solutions, speaks to a question that universities cannot avoid. While knowledge is increasingly global, the challenges confronting our societies remains rooted in local realities. That's why today we hear about local contents, we hear about solutions, and whatever research we do, it should not be one directional. It should be a research that has a win-win situation. If we are collaborating, if we are having development partners, both of us are benefiting. And ultimately, our main aim should be a win, improving on our capacity. Whether we are talking about healthcare, food security, climate change, education, governance, digital transformation of economic development, we must ask a simple question. How does the knowledge we universities generate improve our people's lives? More or less we are talking about, I don't know whether we should call it solving a problem or addressing a need. But I like calling it addressing a need. once we talk about solving a problem, we are being negative. It's as if we have a lot of issues. But once we are addressing the need, I believe it's that positive. That question has shaped the evolution of the modern university. Universities have long preserved knowledge, advanced scientific discovery, and prepared generation of leaders. Their responsibility has grown with the complexity of the societies they serve. Research now informs public policy, support innovation, strengthen institutions, and help communities respond to need that rarely fit within a single discipline. But none of this changes the fundamental value of teaching, research, and community service. Remember one thing, as universities, we are always involved in teaching and learning, research, innovation, and enterprise, community service or community outreach, and also consultancy. We always avoid consultancies, but remember, consultancy is part of community outreach. It is part of the research that has proved to be applicable that we are giving to our society. It must be hands-on. But none of these changes the fundamental values, as we have just said. It gives more of those functions greater purpose. And that's why the world over, we are moving from training for white-collar jobs, training for government employment, to training for entrepreneur, where these people can later on have self-employment and then build the society. Again, as a professor said, in those olden days, we were told you publish or perish. And we would have research which is completely out of context with what we are having in our country. Today we are asking ourselves, which direction are we moving? A publication, a citation, or an academic award tell us something about the quality of scholarship. It does not tell the whole story. The value of research becomes clear when a medical discovery improves healthcare, an engineering innovation raises productivity, an agricultural breakthrough strengthens food security, or even helps better policy direction. The challenge before university is therefore not to produce more research. Let's have that underlined, not to produce more research, but to ensure that research is relevant, accessible, useful, and applicable to our communities. For Africa, this matters greatly. We have the intellectual talent, young population in the world over, globally, and the opportunities to produce knowledge of global significance. We also have challenges that demand solutions grounded in our own circumstances. Africa must therefore be both a consumer and a creator of knowledge. That will require researchers to cross disciplinary boundaries. We are talking about multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, cross-cutting type of research. An engineer working on food systems needs the agricultural scientist, the economist, and the farmer. A health researcher needs the sociologist, the technologist, the policymakers, and the various disciplines, including even economists. Digital transformations calls for more than technical expertise. It raises questions of governance, ethics, and inclusivity. These days we hear about we have to be inclusive in our research. We can't live in silos where an animal production expert is dealing in his own silo. We have the business people, the engineers, we have to work collectively. The need may be different, or rather the problems, but they often meet at the same point. The need for knowledge that works. Knowledge that works knowledge that lessens the burden of our communities. Ladies and gentlemen, the University of Nairobi own history offers an illustration of how this relationship between knowledge and society can develop over time. The University of Nairobi journeys reflect the important role universities can play in national transformation. Our history is closely intertwined with Kenya's development. Our growth has been guided by the commitment to academic excellence, research, leadership, and service to the society. Our story began with the Loyola Technical College, established in 1956 to provide technical and professional education for a region preparing for a new era of development. We remember our issues with independence across our region. That was happening then. The institution later became part of the University of East Africa before attaining independence status as the University of Nairobi in 1970. I see this journey very similar to what we are having at the University of Hargeysa, where you are the leader. University of Nairobi is the lead in the region. University of Nairobi in Africa also leads. And government will always turn to the university for policy direction and development agendas. We see the University of Hargeysa finding itself in the same position. The worst point of being a firstborn. People are relying on you. From those beginnings, the university carried a clear national responsibility. It trained the engineers, doctors, teachers, scientists, lawyers, and public administrators needed to build a young nation and its institution. The university did not remain what it was at its founding. We have to be vibrant, we have to be dynamic. Over the decades, it grew from a predominantly teaching institution into a comprehensive research-intensive university. That growth came with investment in research, infrastructure, postgraduate education, international collaboration, partnership, and multidisciplinary scholarship. Our record continues to earn national and international recognition, just name it, in the global ranking, among others, and I can assure you, we highly value and cherish that recognition. Our greatest achievement is our people. That is the staff at any university, be it student, non-teaching, and even teaching staff. We have a staff population over 5,000. The student population is over 60,000, and we have an alumni or a convocation of over 300,000. So you talk about the judiciary, parliament, business, healthcare, education, international leadership. You find our university there. There's another part of our history that is especially relevant to a gathering of universities. Remember, we have also mentored other universities. We have mentored more than 20 universities in Kenya, so more or less being a mother university, Hargeysa is finding itself in the same route as the mother of the other universities. A lot will be expected from you. First, that history carries a responsibility. An institution can measure its success by what it achieves for itself. But there is another measure, what it leaves behind for the wider academic system. Our research experience offers another example. You've heard about what we call the Kenya AIDS Vaccine Initiative, on what we had as the KV, Kenya AIDS Vaccine Institute, where a lot of initiative came to help the country and also the region. The same thing happened in the COVID-19 pandemic, where joint focus on research and development of various instruments that could release the pain on lives came into being. The lesson was clear. When a crisis arises, research capacity matters. Countries with strong universities are better placed to understand emerging problems and respond to them. So we talk about this collaboration we've been talking about. We think about our curriculum going forward. And I know we have a collaboration and we are expanding on it with the University of Hargeysa. We have been involved in the Masters of Science in Nursing, Midwifery, the Masters of Science in Pediatric Nursing, Masters of Nursing in Critical Care and Trauma Nursing, also postgraduate matters in Leno Nursing. We are working together as a family with the University of Hargeysa. And together I'm sure you have attracted huge grants. And one of our representatives, I think Professor Emma Madeka, you can stand up from the university. Yes, she has assisted that growth. She has assisted that growth and working together. The collaboration you have done attracting over 200 euros and working together as a university on global health initiative is well documented. So again, ladies and gentlemen, I am a professor of mechanization and I know you can't do it alone. You have to move with the others. If you look at this country, there is a lot to do with livestock production. The question we ask ourselves, do we export live cows? Or do we have slaughterhouses? Or do we have abattoirs? Remember, the slaughterhouses, you just slaughter a cow and take it to the butcher. The abattoirs is value addition. You slaughter, you package. Bones, you can turn it into animal feed. Then you can package, do value addition and export these products as finished with an increased share of life. Are we moving in that direction? Or are we just producing raw materials for others to process and gain from our sweat? Our task is to make the change useful to the people who depends on this system. Remember, it is a system that we must optimally benefit. The 5 themes of this conference bring this question into areas that matters directly to our society. We hear about population health innovation and social well-being in education and health, human capital, digital transformation and emerging technologies, sustainable economic transformation, business, infrastructure, name it, governance, law, climate action, agriculture, livestock, name it. These themes are different, but they share a common thread. Knowledge matters most when it reaches the people and the institution that can use it. We are thinking about our institutions. We are thinking about our industry and what collaboration are we bringing on board. That raises a more practical question. What does it take to produce research that can do this? Remember, we have just said it and again. We are thinking about research that benefits us, research that has a local content in it. So it begins with the people. Talented researchers need laboratories, digital infrastructure, access to global knowledge, research fundings, and systems that allow them to pursue good ideas. It also requires leadership that understands the difference between managing an institution and creating the conditions in which scholarship can flourish. Some of us, all of us in academia, the leadership in the university, we started from a classroom. We taught, we did research, we innovated, we did consultancy. But then over time, our governments have realized we have something that we can offer. So in management, in leadership, if you have grown within the system, then you can move it smoothly. So there must be a balance to be maintained. And again, as I come to the conclusion, the history of our universities has taught us that universities can outlive the circumstances in which they were created. We talk about our university over 70 years, independently over 56 years, and that is true. We have to appreciate, have a big picture to give. But the question is, and I ask ourselves as we are in this room, we have had a lot of hits and misses. Sometimes we get it right, another time you get it wrong. Can the universities, Hargeysa included, avoid the mistakes that we made? Can you do the big leap? You escape from that trap. There is a middle crisis trap where you are just try and miss. You are doing research and there is something to it. You are not very sure. You have the opportunity in this line time to escape that. I commend the university for that vision. The challenges before us as Africans are substantial. Improving healthcare, advancing education, strengthening economies, name it. But knowledge alone will not be enough. It must find its way into decisions, policy, that's our governments, technologies, institutions, and in our everyday life. That is the opportunity before our African university. Remember, we are doing this for the future, not our current generation. Distinguished guests, for me this is the question we must keep returning to. Are our universities making a little difference in the society they serve, or are we living in some ivory towers? That means producing knowledge that addresses real problems, preparing graduates who can contribute meaningfully, and building partnership that strengthens our institutions and our countries. At our university, this is the direction we are committed to pursuing. We want to remain firmly rooted in our context while engaging confidently with the wider society, with the wider globe. I believe that is how our universities will remain relevant, credible, and useful in the years ahead. Let us build universities that create a better future for all of us. Thank you, and asante sana.
Karibu, asante. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Ayub, and he has mentioned it, and thank you for the South-to-South solidarity and partnership. Professor Emma and her team as well, they developed with us 3 curriculums that we made for the Masters of the Nursing Midwifery, and we established it the last academic year, and we already proceeding with our students. So thank you for that, Professor Emma and the team. So now I will move and go. I don't want to say few remaining, but that's the truth. Few are remaining. And now I will go to the host university president's statement. Dr. Muhammad Ahmed Sulub will address that. So
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Excellencies, Honorable Minister, Minister of Presidents, and Chairman of the University of Hargeysa Board of Trustees, University Presidents and Vice Chancellors, distinguished scholars, researchers, presenters, diplomats, international partners, and esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and warm welcome to Hargeysa. I will have to deliver 2 brief speeches. The first one will be delivered, I will be delivering it in English, and the second one I will be delivering it, I will deliver the same speech in Somali, so that the audience that will be watching us will follow us better. It is my distinct honor to welcome you all to the first international research conference hosted by the University of Hargeysa. That means this is not, it is not the first research conference that the University of Hargeysa hosted. We had research week, we had also national research weeks as well, or conferences, but this is our first international research week we are hosting. Over the next few days, our city becomes a meeting point for academic inquiry. Our city was very well known with poetry and songs, particularly the Somali songs. Now it's going to be a point for academic inquiry, policy innovation, and strategic collaboration. Bringing together, as was said, over 44 partner institutions across 17 countries in Africa, in Asia, and in Europe. This gathering is a direct reflection to our institutions' overarching vision of becoming a leading center of high-quality research, innovation, and community service in the Horn of Africa and beyond. Our university has undergone significant strategic transformation, intentionally evolving from just being a teaching-centered institution to being a research-driven, community-anchored university. Through the recent expansion of our Directorate of Research, Grants and Community Service, we have institutionalized the internal grant funding. We have also strengthened specialized research capacity and launched critical postgraduate programs in key disciplines like public health and climate change. We have, as I said, organized a national research conference which was based on Somaliland national development. We have published over 121 peer-reviewed research publications in the last year, and we are envisioning to publish 396 peer-reviewed publications this year too. We have created a research model, a new research model in fact, a new research model for research to make impact and decrease or lessen the research waste. Professors were talking about research waste. Sometimes research, or commonly known today in academia, research is done for the sake of research and ends up in the shelves most of the time. But now we want our research to make impact, we want to influence our policy, and we want to make a difference in our community. Simultaneously, our commitment to community service has translated into a real impact from capacity building initiatives for local educators and health practitioners to collaborative field research addressing rural food security, maternal welfare, and sustainable resource management. It's very interesting to mention here today that also in the upcoming years we'll be focusing on reviving the Somali indigenous knowledge. Somalis have a very rich indigenous knowledge in all aspects of science and life. We have a very rich indigenous knowledge in medicine, traditional medicine, astronomy, customary law, governance, and all that. We'll be focusing on reviving that Somali indigenous knowledge in the upcoming years to come. This conference is a culmination of this structural development. Our theme, transformative research for sustainable development, global innovations, local solutions, reinforce our conviction that higher education must serve as the primary engine of national growth. The multifaceted challenges facing our region, from health systems and climate adaptation to governance and economic resilience, demand evidence tailored to our local realities. I do believe that universities should be evaluated not based on the number of students that they graduate and the number of publications that they publish, but by the number of problems they solve in the community, the number of services they deliver, and the number of policies that they influence. Across the 5 thematic themes, 115 presentations and high-level plenary dialogues aim to bridge the gap between academia discovery, public policy and community action. We are equally proud to establish a new research network, formalizing a partnership, a historic partnership with the University of Nairobi tomorrow. To our international partners, government officials, local leaders, presidents, vice presidents, sponsors, thank you for championing this evidence-based progress. I invite all of you to engage actively and build enduring collaboration and help guide our shared future. Thank you all. That's all, and welcome to University of Hargeysa and Somaliland. waxaan doonayaa inaan sidoo kale hal minute aan ku soo koobo hadalkii aan jeediyey waxaan mahadnaqa kadib wasiirka madaxtooyada jamhuuriyadda Soomaaliland la fadhiyo madaxda kale dawladda ka socota gudoomiyaasha jaamacadaha jaamacadda Nairobi iyo jaamacadda Amoud gudoomiyaha boardka jaamacadda Hargeysa professorska ee nooga yimid diplomatiska dhammaan marti sharafta cilmi baarayaasha dhammaantiin marka koobaad waxaan idinku soo dhaweynayaa Shirweynaha koobaad ee Cilmibaadhista Caalamiga ah ee Jaamacadda Hargeysa. Sida ka muuqata bannerka halkan yaalla ama stage bannerka Shirweynahan wuxuu isku keenay 44 institution oo partner la tahay Jaamacadda Hargeysa oo jaamacado iyo research institutions ah oo ka kala socda 17 dal oo Afrika ah, Asia iyo Europe. Waxa la jeedin doonaa hadii la hay'idmo 115 cilmi baarisood oo 96 kamid ah ay noqon doonto cilmi soo jeedin presentation ah halka 19 ay noqon doonto soo jeedin poster ah. waxa laga hadli doonaa 9 qaybood ama 9 mowduuc oo kala duwan 18 session ayuu labada cisho uu socdo cilmi baaristu la qaban doonaa laba panel grand ama panelist bal qaban doona hadii la hay'idmo mid maanta la qaban doono oo gudoomiyaasha jaamacaduhu ay ka hadli doonaan sidii jaamacaduhu ama higher education institutions ay u saameyn lahaayeen policy-ga ama qorsheynta iyo horumarka dalka. Panelka labaad uu noqon doono Britole waxaanu ka hadli doonaa hadii la hay'idmo North South Partnership. Jaamacadaha ama adduunka inta badan wadamada horumaray waxay ku yaalaan North-ka marka sida wadamada North-ka ay soo caawin lahaayeen wadamadii South-ka ama partnerska South-ka ay hadii la hay'idmo laga hadli doonaa inta badan capacity building iyo caawintu waxay noqon timaadaa North-ka laakiin waxa la isweydiin doonaa inta South-ku muxuu isaguna offer gareyn karaa oo North-ka u gudbin karaa. shirkani wuxuu sidoo kale astaan u yahay ama tusaale u yahay visionka ama aragtida jaamacadda Hargeysa ee ah inay ka gudubto jaamacad wax dhigta una gudubto jaamacad cilmi baarisna samaysa walibana cilmi baaris macno la samaysa oo mushkiladaha dadka xalisa bulshada ay ku jaamacadda Hargeysa ka dhaxdisan tahay oo Somaliland iyo dalkana wax tar u yeelata. jaamacadda Hargeysa waxay ka gudubtay inay noqoto aan sheegay teaching centered institution ama institution wax lagu barto sida maanta ka muuqatana waa institution cilmi baaris samayn kara waa institution adeeg bulsho bixin kara waa institution cilmi baarayaal Soomaaliland kaliya ma aha adduunka oo dhan ka socda isku keeni kara oo adduunku sida waxa ku cusub iyo inaga xuluusha mushkiladaha haystaba laga curin karo. jaamacadda Hargeysa visionka awgeed sanadkii ugu dambeeyay waxa ay daabacday amba ay samaysay 120 cilmi baaris in ka badan 120 cilmi baaris oo lagu publish gareeyay amba lagu daabacay journalada peer reviewed-ka waxa la yiraahdaa journal cilmi baarista lagu daabacayo la shaandaynayo scientists kale oo experts ah ay shaandaynayaan shaandada waxa ka gudbaana marka uu noqonayo knowledge adduunka loo gudbin karo. sanadkan modelka cusub ee cilmi baarista uu sameeyay awgeed waxa inoo qorshaysan in jaamacaddu ay soo saarto 396 cilmi baaris hadii la hay'idmo. sidoo kale waxaanu bedelnay cilmi baaristii waayo sidii Dr. Suhair sheegtay cilmibaadhistu waxay ku bilaabataa su'aal. Cilmibaadhista jaamacaddu sameynaysa inay macno yeelataa waxay ku xidhan tahay processka loo maray. Marka waxaan ku bilaabaynaa imika sanad kastaba haddii la haydmo marka cilmibaadhista la qorsheynayo in stakeholder engagement workshop dhammaan dadka cilmibaadhistaasi hadda ay khusayso ee dawladda ah ee private sector-ka ah ee bulshada kale rayidka ah institutionska kale ah in la isku wada keeno oo la weydiiyo maxaa mushkiladena haysta oo cilmibaadhis u baahan waayo cilmibaadhistu mushkilad ayay xallisaa. ugu dambeyn jaamacadda Hargeysa waxay rabtaa in cilmibaadhisteeda ay ku xidho bolosiga sida aan sheegayna in jaamacaddu ay ka gudubto inay arday soo saarto una gudubto inay cilmibaadhis waxtar leh oo bulshada iyo bolosigaba saameyn ku yeelata ay soo saarto inay jaamacadda Hargeysa noqoto mashiinka horumarka dalka Somaliland horseedka u noqda ayaan rabnaa haddii la haydmo aad iyo aad baan idinku mahadnaqayaa dhammaan ka soo qaybgalayaasha madaxda qarankeena la fadhida. Assalaamu calaykum waraxmatullaahi wabarakaatuh. waxaan soo kaloo mahadnaqayaa MC-ga wonderful MC Dr. Suhair Hassan. Thank you Dr. Suhair.
mahadsanid aad buu mahadsan yahay gudoomiyaha jaamacadda Hargeysa. Thank you President Mohamed Ahmed Sulub. imika waxaan u yeerido I'm sorry. I switch it off. Okay, now I will call on stage the remarks from the chair of Board of Trustees, Dr. Saad Ali Shire, to come on stage. So welcome, please. Welcome.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Honorable Ministries, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed, good morning. Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of the board of the university, I want to thank all of you for your presence. Special thanks go to our international guests who came from afar and honored us with their presence. Thank you again. I want also to thank all the contributors and sponsors to the event. Special acknowledgement goes to Dar es Salaam Bank and Danida. Finally, I want to congratulate the team of organizers. I can say you have done a beautiful job. We're very proud of you. Thank you. And let us give them a hand. When I got the invitation and saw the title of the conference, which said Transformative Research for Sustainable Development, Global Innovations and Local Solutions, I asked myself two questions. The first question was, how transformative has research and development been in the last 200 years globally? The second question I asked was, if someone who passed away 200 years ago, that's in 1826, is suddenly resurrected, what will be the 10 developments since 1826 that will surprise him the most? What would be the unbelievable things he would see? I asked ChatGPT the same question. And this is the answer I got from ChatGPT. First surprise, flying. The journey that used to take days, weeks, months, and even years on a horseback or in a carriage or on a boat, in 1826 now takes just a few hours. He was unlucky. The airplane was invented in 1903. The second surprise is the smartphone. A handheld device that's a telephone, a camera, a TV, a radio, a library, a map, a music album, and a bank, all in one. The development of the smartphone is recent. It goes back to 1992 by IBM. Apple introduced the touchscreen in 2007. So these are the things that you will find quite surprising. The third surprise is telecommunication. The ability to talk and see at the same time someone who is on another continent. The telephone the telephone was invented in 1876, 150 years ago. So 50 years after he passed away. The fourth surprise was the glow of cities illuminated by night. The incandescent bulb was invented in 1879. So he didn't live to see it. The fifth surprise is the cars and the highways. Sleek, fast, comfortable, self-driving, nothing like the carriage that he used to. The automobile was invented around 1885. About 141 years ago. The sixth surprise would be the internet. Access to a huge amount of data. The new encyclopedia. The internet was developed from the 1960s to the 1990s, about 66 years ago. The seventh surprise was artificial intelligence and robots. The ability to interact with machines, speak to them, instruct them, and get a response in so many languages is just amazing. The artificial intelligence was first developed in the 1950s, but mainly in the 2020s. The eighth surprise was man walking on the moon. The first Apollo moon mission was in 1969. 200 years ago, it would have been unbelievable for man to be walking on the moon. The ninth surprise would be space exploration, space stations, missions to Mars and the Sun and the galaxies would be incredible. And the 10th surprise would be modern medicine and surgery, imaging, organ transplantation, laser surgery, the miracle of vaccinations, and the life-saving antibiotics all were discovered after 1826. In 1826, life expectancy globally, on average, was 29 years, while now it is 73 years. So 44 years was added to life expectancy thanks to development in medicine since. If the person insurrected was a farmer, he would also be surprised by the extent of mechanization and automation of agricultural production. He wouldn't believe 1 hectare yields 7 tons instead of only 1 ton 200 years ago. He will be also surprised by the jungle of high-rise buildings in megacities in Europe, Asia, and America, and even in Africa. In 1826, the biggest city was Beijing, the Chinese capital, which was about the size of Hargeysa at that time. Now you have Jakarta, which accommodates, or which has a population of more than 40 million people. He will also find the world overcrowded. Global population was in 1826 only 1.14 billion. Today it's 8.3 billion. 7.3 times more people are now living on this planet than in 1826. One big negative surprise would be the environment and the climate. he will find hotter weather, farmland where there was forest, barren land where there was grassland. Now all these surprises, except those related to the environment, came from advances in knowledge and technology through research and development, through research and development projects, sometimes by individuals, sometimes by private companies, sometimes by universities, other times by governments. Now, the 5 countries that spend most on research and development are USA, $923 billion a year. China, $812 billion a year. Japan, $201 billion a year. Germany, $175 billion, and South Korea, $139 billion. There is a high correlation between the amount of money spent on research and development and the actual development of these countries. All the major companies that we know of, that we interrelate with or buy things from, are mainly from these 5 countries. But in terms of proportion of the GDP spent on research, Israel is the leader. Israel spends 6.8% of its GDP on research and development, South Korea 5.1%, Japan 3.6%, Sweden 3.6%, and Belgium 3.4%. In Africa, Egypt and South Africa lead the continent. Egypt spends $20 billion a year on research, while South Africa spends $5.6 billion. In terms of the share of R&D in GDP in Africa, Egypt spends about 1% of its GDP on research and development, Rwanda 0.8%, Kenya number 3, 0.8%, Morocco 0.7%, and Tunisia 0.1%. Now these are the miracles of research and development in the past. Somaliland faced many challenges, including climate change, droughts, environmental degradation, food insecurity, water insecurity, high energy costs, widespread illiteracy, poor education, limited healthcare system, unemployment, and lack of recognition. The only way out of this quagmire is appropriate technology based on research and development. At present, research and development are poorly funded. I would therefore suggest the following. First, we recognize R&D as a national priority. Develop a 5-year national strategic plan for research and development. Elevate the National Commission for Higher Education to a Ministry of Higher Education and Research. Establish a national research fund to which the government, the private sector, universities, and international organizations contribute. Organize an annual conference on research and development results. Require all the main universities to dedicate at least 10% of their budget to research and development. Encourage the formation of professional associations, support associations to produce scientific journals. 9, persuade the government to allocate at least 2% of the budget to R&D by 2030. This will be about 6 to 8 million per year. It's not enough, but it's much better than what we have now. Aim to reach the 1% of the GDP target for research and development set by the AU. That would amount to 30 to 40 million US dollars per year going to research and development. Now, research must be predominantly problem-focused and applied. I can foresee robots developed by our local universities, looking after our livestock, robots teaching our nomadic kids, drones searching for lost animals, solar-lit smart tents, drones picking up shopping from village grocery stores. Money spent on research is money well spent. The private return on research and development is estimated to be 20% per year. So it's a good investment. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saad. Before we proceed to the last, I want to thank University of Bro for participating for this event. You know that the three national universities, they have a hub. They made a consortium called it Hub, Hargeysa, Amoud, Bro. So thank you for showing solidarity and coming here today to us to participate. So now we are doing the official opening address, and please welcome with me on stage the Minister of Presidency of the Republic of Somalia, Mr. Khadr Hussein Abdi, to do the official opening for the conference. Welcome on board. Sudo.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. When you are coming for academic communities, you have to be prepared to listen, because they have a lot to tell. Also, you have to be prepared to be bored, because they will bomb you facts, statistics, numbers, no jokes, no dramatization. I was looking in the room since in the morning, and nobody laughed at once. And that tells about academics. So I will not take much of your time, because I know by now you are all tired and all you have been filled in information. Your Excellencies, the President of the University of Hargeysa, senior government officials, distinguished university presidents and academic leaders, members of diplomatic and development community, researchers, innovators, representatives from the private sector, students, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to join you at the opening of the University of Hargeysa First International Conference. Today, the University of Hargeysa is not simply opening a conference, it is opening a space in Somaliland, a space in which Somaliland can engage the world intellectually, contribute its own experience, help generate solutions to the challenges confronting our country, our region, and humanity. The theme of this conference is both timely and powerful. Transformative research for sustainable development and global innovations and local solutions. The theme has a special personal meaning for me. Before joining politics and assuming my present responsibilities in public service, I worked as researcher. I had the privilege of contributing to international research, examining local capacity building, institutional effectiveness, base building, coordination, particularly the relationship between international interventions and local realities. Among this work was the EU ZIVCAP research program on preventing and responding to conflict, in which I contributed through transparent solutions alongside researchers from the University of Bristol and other European research institutions. I was co-authored evaluating international efforts on local capacity building led by University of Bristol, which examined experiences in Bosnia, Ethiopia, Kosovo, Serbia, Somaliland, and Somalia. We subsequently contributed to international capacity building in Western Balkans and the Horn of Africa, lessons on coherence, coordination, and to the report on best practices in EU local capacity building. That research experience profoundly shaped the way I understand government, public leadership. On the clearest lesson from our research was very simple. Local context is key. The wider finding behind those 4 words was even more important. Local actors must be meaningfully involved in the planning, implementation, and evaluation of interventions intended to affect the societies. Today, as a policymaker, I see the same challenge from other perspectives. Evidence is most valuable when it can be translated into decisions, and government decisions are most effective when they are grounded in credible evidence and accurate understanding of societies. This is why I believe that local ownership must apply not only the development programs but also to research itself. Ladies and gentlemen, local ownership of research is sometimes misunderstood. It does not simply mean adding the name of a local institution to the cover of a report. It does not mean inviting local researchers after research questions and methodology have already been determined. And it does not mean using local researchers merely as translators, coordinators, field guides, or data collectors, while the analysis, authorship, and intellectual recognition remains elsewhere. True local ownership begins with the formation of the question. It means that local institutions, researchers, communities, and policymakers participate in identifying the problems that require investigation. It continues through the design of methodology, the collection and protection of information, the interpretation of findings, authorship, and the communication of results. International researchers and institutions bring valuable knowledge and experience. Local researchers and communities bring language, history, relationships, contextual understanding, and knowledge of what is feasible. Ladies and gentlemen, research must also be relevant to the decisions our societies are required to make. For example, how do we strengthen water security, improve our resilience to drought and climate change? How do we increase the productivity of livestock, agriculture, and fisheries? How do we improve public health and make quality health care accessible? How do we responsibly use artificial intelligence and digital technology in government, business, education, and health? But I would also challenge our researchers to look beyond Somaliland's problems and investigate Somaliland's potential to contribute solutions to the problems facing the world. Our country possesses significant research potential in renewable energy, geology, and mineral resources. Somaliland has abundant sunlight and strong wind resources, particularly along our long Gulf of Aden coastline. Beneath our land and along our coast are geological formations and mineral prospects that require much deeper scientific investigation. At the time when the world is searching for cleaner source of energy, more resilient supply chains and minerals required for the global energy transition, Somaliland should not see itself merely as a recipient of global solutions. We should increasingly see ourselves as a potential contributor to them. This is where research becomes strategic. We need our universities and international research partners to help us map and understand these resources scientifically, to examine their economic potential, to develop technologies appropriate to our environment, and equally important, to determine how they can be developed responsibly, transparently, and sustainably. Imagine Somaliland's solar and wind resources contributing to clean energy in Horn of Africa. Imagine our geological research contributing new knowledge about minerals important to future technologies. Imagine Somaliland becoming a laboratory for solutions in renewable energy, water scarcity, dryland agriculture, livestock resilience, and climate adaptation. Somaliland is ready not only to learn from the world, but to contribute to the world. These ambitions cannot be achieved by government alone. They require cooperation among universities, government institutions, communities, business professionals, associations, and international partners. Once again, I congratulate the University of Hargeysa for organizing this historic conference. You brought here to a conference in which so many times our people traveled long way. So thank you very much again. I welcome all our distinguished international guests to Hargeysa and to the Republic of Somaliland. I wish you productive discussions, enduring academic partnerships, and research outcomes that will contribute not only to peaceful, prosperous, resilient, and sustainable Somaliland, but also in our own way to a more sustainable world. With these remarks, it's my honor to declare the University of Hargeysa First International Research Conference 2026 officially open. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the Minister Khadar. And so now we are officially open, but wait, it doesn't mean we are leaving the stage. Still, we have one great panel discussion, and then again, we are set it off. So I will ask the team to prepare the stage and also to give us the call for everyone in the panel. The panel is called the role of higher education institutions in driving national development through research. So I will ask after the preparation to put the sound on for everyone, to start it with the chair and then again call all the panel people.
Chair Dr. Jonah Kiruja is the Director of Research, Grants and Community Services at the University of Hargeysa, an academic and researcher with extensive experience in health research, evidence. Chair Dr. Jonah Kiruja is the Director of Research. Grants and Community Services at the University of Hargeysa. Chair Dr. Jonah Kiruja is the Director of Research, Grants and Community Services at the University of Hargeysa. Chair Dr. Jonah Kiruja is the Director of Research, Grants and Community Services at the University of Hargeysa, an academic and researcher with extensive experience in health research, evidence-based practice, research capacity strengthening, and international research collaboration. Dr. Kiruja holds a PhD in health and welfare with a focus on evidence-based practice from Dalarna University, Sweden. He contributes to the development and coordination of multidisciplinary research programs, international research partnerships, research capacity strengthening, and institutional research systems, while supporting postgraduate and early career researchers. His work reflects a strong commitment to ensuring that research moves beyond academic publication to inform policy and practice, strengthen institutions, and generate solutions responsive to local and national priorities. He therefore brings to this grand panel the perspective of a researcher, academic and research leader, with experience in connecting research capacity, evidence generation, and international collaboration with national development priorities. Ladies and gentlemen, please read extensive experience in health research, evidence-based practice, research capacity strengthening, and international research. Chair Dr. Jonah Kiruja is the Director of Research, Grants and Community Services at the University of Hargeysa, an academic and researcher with extensive experience in health research, evidence-based practice, research capacity strengthening, and international research collaboration. Dr. Kiruja holds a PhD in health and welfare with a focus on evidence-based practice from Dalarna University, Sweden. He contributes to the development and coordination of multidisciplinary research programs, international research partnerships, research capacity strengthening, and institutional research systems, while supporting postgraduate and early career researchers. His work reflects a strong commitment to ensuring that research moves beyond academic publication to inform policy and practice, strengthen institutions, and generate solutions responsive to local and national priorities. He therefore brings to this grand panel the perspective of a researcher, academic and research leader, with experience in connecting research capacity, evidence generation, and international collaboration with national development priorities. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our session chair, Dr. Jonah Kiruja. Eng. Professor Ayub Ngitao is the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Nairobi, a Professor of Environmental and Biosystems Engineering, Registered Consulting Engineer, Distinguished Scholar, and Senior Higher Education Leader. Professor Ngitao holds a PhD in Agricultural Engineering from the University of Nairobi. With more than 35 years of academic and professional experience, his career spans agricultural engineering, mechanization, irrigation and water systems, renewable energy, environmental management, conservation agriculture and sustainable development. Within the University of Nairobi, Engineer Professor Ngitao has risen through several major academic leadership positions, including Chair of the Department of Environmental and Biosystems Engineering, Dean of the Faculty of Engineering, and Acting Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Academic Affairs, before assuming office as the university's 9th Vice-Chancellor in May 2026. His career is distinguished by the ability to connect science, engineering, and technological innovation with real societal challenges. His work demonstrates the important role that African universities can play in transforming agriculture, developing sustainable technologies, strengthening human capital, and creating partnerships between academia, government, industry, and communities. And he therefore brings to this grand panel the perspective of an engineer, scientist, educator, and university executive, with decades of experience in translating academic knowledge into development-oriented solutions. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Nairobi, Professor Ayub Ngitao. Professor Dr. Mohamed Musa Jibril is the President of Ahmad University, a distinguished scholar and senior higher education leader with more than 2 decades of experience in academia, research, university administration, institutional development, and public service in Somaliland. Professor Dr. Jibril holds a PhD in Business Administration from Uludağ University, Turkey. His scholarly interests include higher education governance, institutional reform, strategic leadership, research management, and sustainable development. Within Ahmad University, Professor Dr. Jibril has served in several major leadership positions, including Dean of the Faculty of Business, Chief Registrar, Dean of Postgraduate Studies and Research, and Vice President for Academic Affairs, before assuming the presidency of the university. His leadership emphasizes strengthening academic quality, research and innovation, postgraduate education, institutional capacity, and strategic partnerships, while promoting stronger connections between universities, government, communities, the private sector, and development partners. He therefore brings to this grand panel the perspective of a scholar, development specialist, and university executive with extensive experience in connecting higher education, research, and institutional development with the wider social and economic development needs of Somaliland. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the President of Ahmad University, Professor Dr. Mohamed Musa Jibril. Dr. Mohamed Ahmed Sulub is the President of the University of Hargeysa, an academic, researcher, and senior higher education leader with extensive experience in university management, organizational development, strategic leadership, and institutional transformation. Dr. Sulub holds a PhD in Organizational Management and Development. His academic and research background spans organizational management, strategic management, governance, knowledge management, sustainability, and sustainable development. Alongside his executive responsibilities, he remains actively engaged in scholarly research and publication. As President, Dr. Sulub provides strategic leadership in strengthening academic quality, research and innovation, institutional sustainability, internationalization, community engagement, and strategic partnerships. His leadership is focused on positioning the University of Hargeysa as an increasingly research-driven and globally connected institution, while ensuring that its research remains responsive to Somaliland's development priorities. He is also actively engaged in regional and international higher education dialogue, including the Vice-Chancellor's Dialogue of the 11th TANA Forum, contributing to discussions on how African universities can connect locally grounded knowledge with solutions to regional and global challenges. He therefore brings to this grand panel the perspective of an academic, researcher, and university executive committed to positioning universities as drivers of knowledge creation, innovation, human capital development, and sustainable national transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the President of the University of Hargeysa, Dr. Mohammed Ahmed Sulub. Chair Dr. Jonah Kiruja is the Director of Research, Grants and Community Services at the University of Hargeysa, an academic and researcher with extensive experience in health research, evidence-based practice, research capacity strengthening, and
Good morning, distinguished university leaders, colleagues, researchers, students, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to this grand panel discussion on the role of higher education institutions in driving national development through research. Universities have always been known to be centers of knowledge creation. But today the question is no longer simply how much knowledge our universities are actually producing. The question is, what is the difference? What is the difference that we are making with the knowledge that we are producing? So I'm going to frame our discussion today around 4 realities. The first is about the reality of impact. Across the world, universities are producing more research than ever before. Yet, one challenge that we have is that there is research to policy, evidence to action gap. We can publish research, we can present it at conferences, we can accumulate citations, but that does not automatically mean that evidence is going to reach the ministries, change policies, improve health or education, reach industry, generate innovation, or even improve the lives of communities. So this brings us to the first challenge. How do we move from producing research to actually producing change? The second reality is on capacity. But we cannot demand greater impact from African universities without confronting the problem of resources. According to UNESCO data, Sub-Saharan Africa invests only about 0.3% of their GDP in research and development, compared to 1.92% globally. And yet, our universities are expected to produce internationally competitive research while simultaneously responding to some of our country's most urgent development challenges. So this raises a fundamental question. Can we expect world-class research without building world-class research systems? This is not simply about individual research projects or individual research grants. It's about the labs, it's about PhD training, it's about postdoctoral training, it's about retaining talented researchers, about establishing research management systems, about institutional financing. And ultimately, it is about whether African countries and universities can build sustainable research ecosystems rather than just depending on short-term, externally funded projects. So that is the question of capacity. The third reality is on excellence. So we come to a very interesting tension here. So universities everywhere are being judged through the global measures of excellence. We have to count the publications. We have to count citations. We have to monitor also the reputation of these institutions. And universities want to improve the international visibility and also the global ranking. These are very important ambitions, but there is another question for African universities. Who defines excellence? If an African university is going to conduct research that is going to solve a major community problem, but that contribution is not adequately captured by international ranking indicators, is that research less excellent? In contrast, if a university increases its publications, citations, international ranking, but the communities that are surrounding the university, they see very little benefit from the knowledge that has been produced. Should we consider that university successful? Perhaps the challenge before African universities is not to choose between global excellence and local relevance. Perhaps our challenge is to demonstrate that actually research addressing African problems can also simultaneously be locally transformative and also globally excellent. So that is the question of excellence. The last reality is on future, the future. So we must look ahead. Africa is the world's youngest continent. We have more than 400 million people between the age of 15 and 35. Over the coming decades, our continent will experience enormous demographic, technological, environmental, and also economic transformation. So AI is changing how knowledge is created. Climate change is reshaping livelihoods and economies. Our cities are growing. Our health systems face old and emerging challenges. The labor markets are changing, and millions of young Africans will enter those labor markets. So we must ask, who will generate the knowledge and innovations required to navigate this future? And perhaps more importantly, who is going to define the research questions? Will African universities participate in research agendas developed elsewhere, or will universities increasingly become agenda setters, knowledge leaders, technology developers, innovation hubs, and architects of African-led solutions? So that is the question of our future. So our conversation will therefore move through these 4 areas of impact, capacity, excellence, and the future. We are going to begin with brief opening reflections from our panelists, move through the 4 questions, and then we're going to open the conversation to you, the audience. So in about 1 to 2 minutes each, I would like to reflect on this broad issue. What role should higher education institutions play in advancing national development through research? I will start with Dr. Mohamed Ahmed Sulub, the President of the University of Hargeysa. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chona, for the very nice introduction of the panel. In fact, it's a very big topic. What role can higher education institutions play in national development through research? I can say in very briefly, they can play the central role of attaining national development, because of whenever we are talking about development, we are talking about different steps of development, and each step requires data, each step and decision or policy requires evidence, and connecting that to the beginnings of University of Hargeysa. And University of Hargeysa was established, as was presented last night, 1998, and we started wholly with just graduating students, teaching and learning. We have graduated more than 17,000 now. This is a contribution. This is the first contribution. I think higher education institutions can contribute to national development through producing the skilled employees or the skilled graduates that will drive the national development. Nowadays, there is another question coming on the way, which is, are we really graduating or producing the right people with the right skill needed in the market or needed for national development? This is another question. So after fulfilling that, University of Hargeysa is now reviewing its curriculum. After 10 years, this is going to be the second review since its establishment. So we are aligning our academic offerings with the demanded skills in the market. So I think this is one way that higher education institutions like universities can contribute to national development, producing the people with the right skill needed in the market. The second way is this thing we are doing now. From just being a teaching university, University of Hargeysa is now stepping to be a research university. So the second role after graduating students is supplying evidence and data for policy making. So I think this is the second way that universities can contribute to national development. A third and final way is through serving the community, translating that research into a meaningful community interventions For instance, we have been doing a free legal aid clinic for the refugees and internal displaced people in Somaliland. Our School of Law is doing a very good job, and our School of Medicine is also doing a very good job in assisting doing medical campaigns in the suburban areas of Hargeysa as well as in the villages. So I think through this, and then these three things will be the central pillars of what is expected from a university. What's expected from a university is to graduate people with the right skill that's needed in the market for national development, and providing research and evidence and data. And the third thing is not being just away and disconnected from the community, but being connected, interactive with the community, solving interactions with the university. I think through these three ways, universities can highly contribute to the national development through research, through academic offerings, and through community service.
Thank you very much. Now I'll welcome Dr. Mohamed Muse from the University of Amud.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. And let me congratulate once again to University of Hargeysa and welcome my partners. And in short, in fact, universities, as we know, have the most concentration of best learned personnel and best facilities and equipment in the country. Therefore, they are the most suited centers which can participate to develop the national development. In short, I can say universities or higher education must contribute for developing human capital, generating new knowledge, promoting innovation, and supporting entrepreneurship. I think that's enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I'll welcome Engineer Professor Ayub from the University of Nairobi. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, the moderator. And again, let me take this from different levels. Once we talk about a researcher, we are talking about a researcher, not just about applied research. Remember, there is what we call classical research, where we are modeling, we are developing theories, we are doing simulation, and that is one part of it, which is very important for us in academia. Then there is the applied research, and in applied research then, directly benefiting our societies, our communities, and livelihoods. If let's say I'm developing a water harvesting system, I can do the trials in the field and they'll benefit the society. So, the take here is, we have more of the research moving to the applied part, and we can have a ratio of 1:2, that is 30 to 70%, but we can't wish one of it away. And ultimately, the whole direction for applied research then is an issue of value addition, and us also investing in the value chain. And as we know today, every type of research have got the value addition as the value chain in it that it brings into play. Thinking about the local content, although am I coming again so that okay, or can I continue? Once you think about the local content, and we were told earlier even by the minister, the issue of outward looking, we don't just think about ourselves from egocentric point. We have also to respect our partners, our international partners and collaborators in solving their and even our problems. Because we are moving to a situation whereby we can think about patency. Do we have intellectual property rights? Do we have the systems? So that whatever we develop, then we can move into that level. You talked about ranking. Do we forget about ranking and just thinking about solving our societal problem? The question here again, once you are well ranked globally, remember the indicators of ranking is feasibility, on your research. Employability of the graduates is another indicator which is being used highly. And if you are having that within the local market, you are solving international, and also, and that's why you are ranked highly, and the common problems that we face locally. We are dealing with a young population, the Gen Z, that's what we are training. This is not what we went through. We are dealing with another type of people. You have to pamper them, you have to take them in another direction. So, going forward, they are even moving away from the hard science, from the hard reading. So we have to be heavily innovative on how we move with them together. It's another generation. And if we drop the ball, then you realize we are left hanging. But ultimately in Africa, we have a very young population, which is our major asset. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Already we can hear several important themes that are emerging here. Producing the right skill set, implementing community interventions, that is having the right human capital. There is the theme of applied research, adding the university in the value chain, issues to do with intellectual property rights and international ranking, and the connection between knowledge and development. So we're going to take this discussion further. And now the question that we have is, there is a disconnect between our research outputs and policy and national development. So how do we move our research into policy and national development? So I will welcome now Dr. Mohammed Ahmed Sulu, if that's okay.
Thank you very much. That's a very big question. Moving research from research to policy or policy influence, I can summarize in two major ways. The first thing is, as I said in my speech, shifting the university evaluation metrics. We have been evaluated by how many graduates we produce or how many publications we make. But I think just to influence policy, we need to go beyond that. We need to go how many policies we are influencing. How should we influence policy? Inviting legislators into the universities, organizing debates, forums, and exactly. So through this, I think we should shift these evaluation metrics to these major or macro evaluation metrics. So redefining academic success beyond publication counts, to direct policy influence, to service delivery, and most importantly, to solving local problems. Research should be solving local problems. We have many droughts, many recurrent droughts coming again and again, almost every year or almost every other year. So what solution do we have for these droughts? It's a problem in front of us. So we need University of Hargeysa and Somaliland universities, including Amud and Bur'o, to think of that. We have dramatic climate change taking place in Somaliland. What do we have for that? We need to produce. What is the problem? How can we solve it? How can we deal with it? How can we mitigate it? So I think solving real local problems is one way we can connect our research to policy. My second point is to create knowledge brokers. I call it knowledge brokers. This is to create a dedicated policy units inside universities to translate technical academic findings into actionable executive briefs for governments, ministries, and government officials. Many of the politicians do not read a long co-authored papers. They read policy briefs. They don't read much text. So we should be establishing, as I think, a policy unit within the universities. Once research is done, they should just translate that in a way that politicians or policy officials can understand it, and then think about ways that they can interact or communicate those findings with their relevant policy bodies. One good way is to invite them for roundtable discussion. maybe in their ministries or in their government agencies. So that's one good way. Inviting them, discussing the research findings. Sometimes Somalis are, as I was saying last night, Somaliland is the origin or the land of poetry. We are an oral society. So one good way in Somaliland is that we maybe take key points, key findings of that research, and then communicate them with the ministry. Do you know that Master Minister of Health, that more than, let us say, 70% of Somaliland do not receive primary health care? So that will shock the Minister of Health Development, by the way. And then, okay, he will say, I don't know it. Do you know it? Yes, we have done research on, profession of primary health care in Somaliland. So do you want to have the details? Do you want to know the details? He said, okay, good, I want to know. And then you give them the policy brief. So I think in these two ways, we can link policy to, link research to policy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I'll welcome Professor Ayub from the University of Nairobi. Then we'll go to the President of Vermont University.
Yeah, thanks a lot, moderator. And again, I support what my colleague has said, the President of Hargeysa. Now, the starting point thinking outward is, as I've just said, we should embrace the applied research as much as we think about the classical research, and we avoid what we call the trap, the mid-economic crisis. The developing countries have done a lot for us. Most of the theories are there. Why should we reinvent the wheel by looking at those theories? And that's why you talk about the frog leaping. We jump over that crisis and we move to that area of applicability, applied research. As much as we are looking critically at our partners, towards policy. Remember, I like the speech we had from the minister, talking about the evidence then driving the policy. I know we have done a lot of work back in Kenya on energy systems. And then at one point, you realize that gap and you try to cross that gap by research findings. If you cross that gap, then it can inform policy to make it a regulations toward a policy guideline. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I welcome the President of Vermont University, Dr. Mohamed Musi.
Thank you. To be on the point, the question was, how do we move research into policy and national development? There is no doubt that African universities are producing a lot of research, but the central challenge is ensuring that the knowledge moves beyond academic publications into policy, practice, innovation, and improved public services. The problem is that research is still viewed as an end in itself. It is not treated as a strategic resource for solving national problems. It is still research for the sake of degree or promotion for the sake of it. So what should we be done? To my recommendation, there are 5 recommendation points. Number 1, create a stronger alignment between university, research, and national priorities. Universities, government, industry, and civil society should jointly identify priority challenges in the areas of health, education, food security, climate change, employment, digital transformation, and public sector reform, and develop research agendas around those areas or themes. This would make research more relevant to national development, while enabling governments to identify and use evidence more effectively. Number 2, strengthen the pathway from research to policy. Researchers often produce valuable findings, but lack mechanisms for communicating them to policymakers in accessible and timely forms. Universities should establish policy and knowledge transfer units, produce policy briefs, organize regular government-university dialogues, and create platforms where researchers and decision makers can engage throughout the research process rather than only after publication. Number 3, change incentives within universities. Academic promotion and funding systems generally prioritize journal publications and citations. While these remain important indicators of scholarly quality, they should now be complemented by evidence of policy influence, innovation, technology transfer, improved services, community impact, and contributions to national development. Researchers who successfully translate evidence into practical solutions should be recognized and rewarded. Number 4, invest in interdisciplinary and collaborative research. Given that national challenges rarely fit within one academic discipline, partnerships among universities, government agencies, business, communities, and international organizations should increase the likelihood that research will be implemented and scaled. Number 5, deliberately measure research impact. Universities should track indicators like changes in legislation or government programs influenced by research, new products or enterprises developed, improvements in service delivery, patents and technologies, adapted and measurable benefits to communities. In conclusion, research success should be understood more broadly than publications and citations. Excellent research is research that generates credible knowledge and, where appropriate, contributes to better decisions, stronger institutions, innovation, and improved lives. African universities will become much stronger engines of national development when research priorities, funding incentives, policy making, and impact assessment are deliberately connected. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. What I'm hearing is that actually producing excellent research is only one part of the equation. So universities also need to have mechanisms, for example, aligning research with the National Development Plan, creating knowledge brokers, that is what Dr. Mohamed Sulub was saying, using policy briefs, and also what Professor Ayub was pointing out, frog limping, because already a lot has been done from high income settings, so we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We need to go forward. And this means that we need to connect research with decision makers, communities, industry, national priorities. Impact therefore needs to become part of how we think about the research process itself. So I'll go to the next question, and this is a very important question because we are in a low resource setting. We have very limited resources. So how can we finance? How can we finance and strengthen research in our universities? Because sometimes we have to rely too much on funding from donors and development partners. So I'll pose this question to Professor Ayub, please.
The financing of research activities. Now, if I look at it, looking back home at the University of Nairobi, I can assure you the university itself, the government and the tuition cannot fully fund research. But this partnership we have, joint attraction of grants, and looking at the opportunities, which are quite many, that is the way to go. I know, like the Faculty of Health Sciences, there have been attraction of a lot of heavy grants. We are talking about in millions of USDs. And it is through collaboration with Europe, Asia, and even in America, then you attract this grant. But no one government. You heard about the statistics we were given even this morning about the best countries, South Africa, Egypt, at 1% of their GDP to research, where we know we need over 20% going to research, going to some part of academic. So I will just say the whole idea is partnership, collaboration, and joint attraction, joint write-up. And again, let us involve our faculty in training on lighting, grant attracting proposals. That's the direction to go.
Okay, thank you so much. Now I'll welcome Dr. Mohamed Musse.
Thank you. When it comes to finance, I have also 5 recommendations.
If we can have like 2.
Okay, yes. Okay, yes, I don't want to explain.
Okay.
Okay, I have 5 recommendations. Number 1, government investment is needed, highly needed, or badly needed. Number 2, universities must strengthen institutional financing. Number 3, external funding should be sought. Number 4, investment, well, it must be invested in infrastructure, invest in people, develop professional research management systems. These should be able to identify funding priority opportunities, manage grants, support ethics and intellectual property, maintain research data, and measure impact. Institutional capacity will make funding more efficient and more credibility with partners. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Mohamed Sulu.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chona and my fellow panelists. I will summarize it in the issue of financing can be handled in 3 major ways, I can say. The first way is creating public-private funding. That is the government allocating fund for research. We are trying to solve local problems through research, so the government should be financing, should be supporting that and allocating some of this budget for research. Luckily, the President of Somaliland promised that from the next year he will allocate a good portion of the budget for research in the first time in the history. So this is a good thing for us. In fact, Dr. Saad, the chairman of the board of University of Hargeysa, recommended that many years ago, but now that fund will be open. The second thing, private sector should also support research. I mean, here in Somaliland and in the context of Islamic, we have many ways of supporting research. That through endowments, through waqf, through zakat, mechanisms. So I think private sector should also be supporting. So having public-private funding pools. My second point, the second way that we can secure financing for research is sharing infrastructure. And that's very important. And instead of having, let us say, malaria lab, having 3 major labs in the University of Hargeysa, Amud University and Burco, and the rest of the other public universities, sharing that infrastructure with those 3 universities can solve, I think. So sharing infrastructure. The most important way that we can finance research is through universities creating business enterprises or social enterprises. We are trying at the University of Hargeysa. We have established a well-equipped laboratory that will serve the public. We have also planning to create our first experimental and commercial farm that students will use it for experiment and that will produce crops to be sold in the market. We are planning also fuel station, business mall, consultancies, so creating social enterprises or business enterprises will finance universities' research to influence policy. Yes, so thank you.
Thank you so much. So it means that for us to be able to finance, it's very important that we think about government investment, we think about public-private funding, and also partnerships and joint research grant proposal writing with other institutions as well. So I will move to the next question. And this is an important question because it's about actually excellence. So how can we actually balance a global ranking with the national relevance? How do we have that balance? Maybe to give an example in context to this, we've had researchers, they've done very good studies, they want to publish. But then the reviewers will say, your study is too local, it doesn't reflect the global landscape. So they recommend that the researcher needs to adjust and to refine and change, make some changes to that particular paper. So the question here is, how do we actually balance global ranking with the national relevance? Welcome, Dr. Mohamed Vasi.
Thank you. I have 6 perspectives, or just
Yes.
I can say 6
Yeah,
recommendations.
but because of the limitation of time,
Okay,
please,
yeah.
if we can go fast, yeah.
Ranking versus excellence. African universities must pursue global excellence, but they should not allow rankings to define excellence entirely. Number 2, understand the parameters of global ranking. Number 3, develop broader institutional definitions of excellence. Number 4, better understanding local relevance. Number 5, pursue a dual strategy. 6, role of governments and ranking organizations. National higher education policy should reward universities for measurable contributions to development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Mohamed.
Thank you very much. That's a very good question. And you know, the issue of ranking comes to our mind is always, should we compare University of Copenhagen in Denmark to University of Hargeysa or Ahmad University or University of Nairobi? So, I mean, what metrics will be used when comparing such highly established, old, infrastructure-rich, supportive university to a university that was established in 1998, serving in Somaliland with limited resources and many, you know, realities and challenges. So I think I have 2. You know, when I brainstorm it, I think it can be balanced in 2 ways. First thing is having a dual impact framework. Evaluating universities based on, or scientists, as Dr. Chono was saying, based on the problems that they are solving in their relevant context. So that's one thing. Not based on, of course, it should also be evaluated based on the innovation that they brought on board. But based on, but I think having global innovation in mind, evaluating universities and scientists based on the local problems they solve, the communities that they help, the policies that they influence, and the communities that they serve, and the services that they deliver is one way. My second very important thing, or very important way that we can balance global rankings to our universities is creating contextual metrics or rankings. For example, University of Hargeysa is now trying to be ranked in Times Higher Education. But Times Higher Education have a very, very high standards, you know, of publications, of teaching, learning, of community service, of doing many things. So we are trying to be ranked in Times Higher Education Sub-Saharan Africa, which is a better. So we will be compared against the universities in Sub-Saharan Africa. Why not having a metric or a ranking in Somaliland, in East Africa, where University of Nairobi and the other University of Hargeysa, Ahmad University, University of Burco, and the other universities in the region are ranked in that. So I think having a contextual ranking, which is based on country, region, then continent, is the other ideal way of balancing global ranking to universities.
Okay, Professor Ayub, if you can, do you agree with Dr. Mohamed on the issue of having ranking that is specific in the East African region?
Fine. I think let me answer the general question. Yeah, because I know we have been in this space at the University of Nairobi for over 20 years. That's purely looking at ranking, looking at the ISO standards, looking at the quality management systems. You know, we have a NISO standard 9001, that is for universities, management, and the rest. Once you look at it, ranking and excellence are just synonymous. In the sense, I talked about those parameters. Some of the parameters you think about are feasibility. How are the other people looking at you? How is your industrial, institution, and government interaction? Remember, some of them, they'll physically look at the data, others will go to the website. For instance, you have come up with a very good program on nursing as the University of Hargeysa. Now, if you have not put it in the website, you are not feasible. So nobody will know that, and if you are attracting grants, nobody will partner with you. Then they talk about the employability of the graduates. You know what we call the tracer studies. It is always important for the university to check. We have had, let's say, 500 have graduated this year. After 1-2 years, you are tracing them. Where are they? Did they get employment? So they are telling us to look at the quality of the academics that we are getting. So those issues, feasibility, employability, internalization of our programs. And that's why I was saying we have that outward looking as we move to the partnership. Take most of the universities in Africa which are ranked heavily are from South Africa. But then I know we have done research with them. You look at them, they are seriously looking at their local content as they look at what the globe is doing. The world over, it is the same thing. For us who have interacted with China for some time, you'll go to universities, some universities in China, very good university, they don't bother about ranking. Other very good universities, they are very passionate about that direction. So the way as Africa might take is, let us not lose the ball, but see what the globe is doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. So on the last question about the future, this will be reflected in your closing remarks. So for now, I want to also invite the audience to pose some questions to the panelists. So please briefly introduce yourself and your institution, then you can direct your question to the panelists.
Yeah. Hello. Thank you for the exciting discussion. My name is Saralesa. I'm an African, like most of you here are, but I've been living in the UK for over 30 years. I'm a professor of statistics in Manchester University. I mean, I can understand what you guys are talking about. All this ranking thing is mainly BS. It's only for Europeans and Americans. It's mainly BS. Don't worry about ranking. It means nothing. It means nothing to Africans. It should mean nothing to Africans, right? It's only for the people in the West. They think ranking is important. It's all based on, some kind of criteria they choose so that they become the top universities in. I mean, about research, there are a lot of problems with respect to research in Africa. As I said, I've been going around Africa. Every year I come to Africa, visit multiple countries. Thank you for inviting me to Somaliland again this year. I mean, Africa has a lot of talent. It has the youngest population in the world. It has enough energy, enough ambition to become a hotbed for research in the world. But there are multiple problems. First, all these, most journals, like all these Springer journals, all these journals published by Wiley, they require APC. Even if you tell them that you are from Somalia, or if you are from DRC, or you are from South Sudan, they will still say you need to pay the APC to have the papers published, which is kind of outrageous. I I mean, they don't understand. These publishing houses are just money-making machines, right? I mean, they tend to publish. And the second problem is with respect to ethics. They say there should be ethics in publishing, there should be ethics in data gathering, and all kind of BS, right? But they do not understand that in some countries in Africa, they don't have ethical committees. There are certain countries in Africa that are constantly at war, like in South Sudan, or even in Sudan, Somalia. There are no ethical committees to approve collection of data. And you keep telling them they don't understand. You keep telling the administrators at the publishing houses, they don't understand that we cannot get ethics for certain countries in Africa, right? And about the thing you pointed out about impact, I mean, all the papers which we publish, I'm working with over 30 countries in Africa. They should have impact, but the impact requires funding. Without funding, it's not possible to have real impact in African soil. For funding, you can apply. We should try to seek the billionaires in Africa, especially the billionaires in Nigeria, the billionaires in South Africa, and see if they can provide us with some funding. I've been trying very, very hard to seek funding from the UK and America to support researchers in Africa, but it's not easy. Like, I just submitted an application with somebody from Amud University for a grant in the UK, and the problem with that, all the grant applications, is that the part of the grant applications money, they should come to the UK. It doesn't matter. Like, if they will take sometimes up to 50% of all the money for administrative costs in the UK. They don't understand how poor Africa is, how the researchers in Africa, like the ones I'm working with, they work extremely hard under difficult conditions, right? And produce research, publish in top journals, right? There are not many people like that, but yet they want part of the money. They want part of the money to stay in the UK, which is not, in my opinion, is not fair at all.
Thank you so much, Prof.
Thank you so much.
We'll take another question. Let's take another question, but it's supposed to be brief, please, because of time.
Sorry, good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Dr. Mahmoud Jama. I want to have two suggestions on the research. I'm not sure whether we have a research authority that authorizes, that is an institution, that is purely supposed to regulate and coordinate research in Somaliland. I think that is a very, very important institution. It will help create a national research policy. It will simplify a lot of work that the University of Hargeysa is now doing, a lot of donkey work that it is now doing, as far as research is concerned. And it will also compel the government to allocate some funds to that research institution. For example, which themes, should we, for example, focus on? Which type of researchers, should we encourage? Which regions, should we have more research in? For example, if you look at a lot of researches, that are done in Somaliland, a lot of it, is, within the urban areas, and the surrounding areas, I think because of facilities and, infrastructure and things like that. But in the very rural areas, in the regions, all these areas, require researchers, to be focused. That is one. The other thing is, can we have do we have an Africa-based ranking, for the universities? Because that might now take care of the contextual issues. I think those are the comments I want to make. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we go this side, please. This other side. 2 questions from this side. And because of the limitation of time, we'll take 2 questions from this side.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My name is Dr. Sulu Ismail from University of Bro. So thank you very much, all the panels. So I have 2 questions here. The question 1 is, usually the project is and the research are not relevant to each other. So sometimes the agencies who wanted to implement the project they are not following the research because they are to specific to solution. They wanted to solve a specific solution rather than to discover the new knowledge and new innovation. So that's how can we combine the projects and the academic research. That's my question. The second question is, usually the researchers and policy makers are not collaborating with each other because it's very difficult, the policy makers, to commit the research findings because they are not part of the research at the initial stage. So how we can connect each other, the researchers and also the policy makers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We take the last question. The last question, please.
Thank you very much. Good morning. I thank also the panelists for the very nice and valuable insight that they are giving. My name is Mahmoud. I'm from the University of Hargeysa. Well, it has been discussed how to connect the research outputs with the policy makers. But beyond that, I think higher education institutions often suffer from the state of mind, which they call it ivory tower gap, which means there is a separation between the academic theory from every day-to-day community needs. So I want the panelists to give a suggestion or their insight of the best strategy, how we should also connect. In fact, the higher education institutions are also public institutions. But how do we connect these higher education institutions with other public institutions who are closely working with the community in solving their day-to-day problems as well as fulfilling their needs? So what strategies do you suggest? Because this at grassroots community, institutions are the end who will interpret and also implement whatsoever policy is developed at the higher level. So how can we connect the higher institution with the other public institutions that we have in our locality?
The last question.
Yeah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My question, I'm directly going to the question. So we are talking about the role of health institutions, the educational institutions in bringing research outputs to national health institutions. And you have now gradually expressed it, for example, in the Somaliland context, that people are willing to the level that the president of Somaliland is putting their, and for example, the primary on research. Now the question is, when we are thinking about the standard level and reaching the standard of universities that have been built 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago, and we try to compete with those universities, it's quite challenging to reach to that kind of level. Can we have a level of, for example, standard where universities that are younger and been developed in the 1970s, like Nairobi universities, and 2000s in terms of universities of Hargeysa and Ahmad University, can reach and will not compete in terms of the, and for example, parameters to those long-stayed universities, but with their peers, but still maintain the standards that are locally relevant to the researches that are done at the local level.
Thank you so much. Okay, there is the need, we get a question from one female, at least from that side, please. Yes.
Bismillah. I'm very happy to be a part of the first International Research Conference. I just want to touch on something that Dr. Jonah has mentioned in the intro, and it was a really critical question. Who defines excellence for African universities? So that's the question I have.
Thank you so much. One more, female, please. Female. The criteria is female. Yes. Yes. What is your name, please? Your name? What is your name? Yeah. Nora. Then please come to Emma. Professor Emma.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you also to the panel chair and the panelists for the good discussion. My question is a straightforward one. My name is Emma Matheka from University of Nairobi. So my question is that we've been doing a lot of research, and I think this is globally, but even more so the problem is affecting Africa or sub-Saharan Africa. So a lot of research is being done, but translation of research into action in order to solve the local problems, that is where we have a challenge. So to the panelists, what is the best solution to translate research outcomes into actions that can sort local problems? Thank you.
Thank you so much, the audience, for very, very interesting questions. So we come back to the panelists, and we'll start with the questions from Professor Sarah Leys from the University of Manchester. So the first question I'd like to pose to our panelists, that is Dr. Mohamud from Ahmad University, is the question of getting funding from Africa, about how we can approach, because we have also wealth, we have rich people, billionaires who are in Africa. So what are the strategies that we can explore so that we can attract funding from our own people from Africa?
Thank you very much indeed. I think two things. First thing is universities have a strong voice if they are together. They can have influence on political sector, especially policymakers. Because we are public institutions, we are part and parcel of government institutions. Therefore, it is up to us to influence policymakers to determine, to allocate some funds for research. That's number one. Number two, when it comes billionaires or millionaires, just I think we need to educate themselves in order to understand the benefit of research. Even if the country becomes rich, people will become rich, and billionaires will be billionaires or trillionaires. Therefore, we have to educate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Mohamed Sulub, what is your reflection on that? Do you share the same perspective as Dr. Mohamed Muse on the issue of the strategy we can explore to actually attract funding still from Africa, that we do lobbying, we try to influence billionaires and the rich people and the private sector so that they can actually fund research in Africa.
Yeah, I think I agree with what Dr. Mohammed said. Partnering local and regional partnerships first. I mean, universities within the country, like Somaliland, very good experiences that we have established a very close partnership between Hargeysa, Amoud, and Bro universities. So this is a good example. Whenever we want, sometimes we acquire and look for grants together, Hargeysa, Amoud, and Bro. So having these local and regional partnerships will, I think, help. And another thing is just showing what research can do for these billionaires or businessmen or whoever want to finance research is also another way. And that will come through when universities align research to the local problems, the local ideas, and create evidence, a realistic evidence that can represent the context ideally.
Okay, thank you. So for Professor Ayub, I will pose, I think, the next question, considering that presidents have already provided feedback on those, on the questions that were raised by Professor Sarales. So the question that we have here is about collaboration between the universities and the government. So how can we improve and have good link between the universities and the government?
Yeah, thank you, moderator. And again, I would like to say, African, we are not poor. What we have is how do we prioritize our resources? If we talk about and how do we reduce leakages, how do we reduce wastages in the resources? If we talk about 5 or 10%, where does it take us? The other issue coming into your direction, we have multi-sectoral companies, and in Kenya they are doing a lot in supporting the institutions. But the question comes, you know, I can assure you no industry will just support any research for the sake of it. But if the industry has a product they want institutions to support, then it becomes easy. So the whole drive, I would say, is trying to influence the government, as it was said. That could be in Kenya, we are the third that are putting some good percentages into research, but we are not even good at that level. Can we improve on that percentage that we are taking into research? And again, remember the industry and government prayers, there is a lot of interrelationship. So we have to work with them as institutions at par. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I will be connecting the questions that were posed by the audience. We had a remark that ranking should not be very, very important to African universities. And also that the younger universities should not be competing with the long established universities in terms of ranking. And also the question of how do we actually define excellence. So if we are to think about the issue of ranking, what are your thoughts on this? Dr. Mohammed Sulub, on the issue of global ranking.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chona. I think the issue of ranking, I have many, ideas on that. Coming from the philosophy itself, which says that there is no global reality. There is no global best university. But that reality depends on the context. It's more relevant. So based on that, I think universities can learn from their seniors. It's very good to learn from your senior, from established universities in global north, established universities in the global south. But these rankings, as I said, there should be a contextual ranking that's based in Africa, in East Africa, Sub-Sahara. And as Dr. Mahmoud was saying, currently there is no Africa ranking. There is this Times Higher Education Africa ranking. There is this Times Higher Education Sub-Saharan ranking. But this September, the African leaders, university leaders, will have a gathering in South Africa in Cape Town, and I will be traveling this September to attend that meeting. So the discussion is how can Africa have its own ranking, which is based on, thank you, which is based on ways, it is indigenous knowledge, which is based on its own, resources, which is based on its own, competitiveness. One more thing I want to add is this issue of competitiveness or comparing a university with other university. If that comparison is just for learning, it's okay. You compare yourself with an established university, you learn from what they did good. But if that is, comparison is about beating them. I'm talking about universities say we have to beat this university, we have to do, no. Then that's bad. Because of the best thing is to be your best, to be the best version of you, exactly. You are unique. University of Hargeysa is very unique, different than the other universities. University of Amud is very unique in its context at Boroma. University of Nairobi is unique. So having this uniqueness, taking this uniqueness with you, being the best version of you, and learning from the others could be a good way from these rankings.
Okay, thank you so much. I will pose a different question to Dr. Mohamed Muse from Mahmoud University, and this is a combined question from Professor Mahmoud as well as Professor Emma. So how do we connect the higher education institutions with public institutions? Because also we need to think about how we reach the communities, because that's where action will be taking place. So what is the solution of how we translate research into action?
Okay, just as we know, when it comes evidence, it means creating knowledge. Fostering means converting knowledge into solution. When it comes partnerships, yes, we have to find partnerships or institutions which can finance and implement and scale up of the research. And to connect higher education to policymakers or government institutions. I have seen, for example, I have been around more than 20 or 30 countries in the world. Just as you see, no country can develop without combine higher education and government institutions plus industries. Therefore, we need to understand as Somalilanders or Afrikaners to understand how to work together. If we can understand this, yes, we can work together and we can improve.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So thank you, the audience. The questions that you posed were very important, considering also the complexity of this discussion. So before we conclude, I would like to return to each of our panelists to give a final reflection. So each will give a final reflection of what we have discussed about. So I'll invite Professor Ayub to give the final.
Yeah, thanks a lot, moderator, and my colleagues, presidents or vice chancellors. Yeah, so I would say this interaction is very important. And for us, the whole idea is for us to share our experiences. And going forward, again, as we break, let us ask ourselves, how much have we networked? How much are we doing the partnership? And whatever we are doing in our countries and in these countries, how is it benefiting us and also benefiting? It must be a win-win situation. And that's why, again, I don't mind if I get a glance from the European Union. For instance, for 4 million euros, I don't mind if for the local content it will develop with 1 million. Remember, as it were, that is money that is gotten from the taxpayers' money there. Yeah? The other thing, let's even throw out the word ranking out of the window and forget about whatever there is any ranking. But we ask ourselves, are we following the quality management systems? For instance, very simply, are lecturers conducting research? Are they going to class? How are they interacting with the students? Are we having some, let's say, faculty of medicine, nursing, going out there in a monthly basis? Can we quantify? And then the societies are being assisted. And as an institution, we can do a tracer study by the end of the 4, 5, 6 years. After 2 years, we do tracer study. Where are our graduates, our programs relevant? Are we attracting international partners? Are we attracting international students to our university? Once we talk about journals, I remember there was one time when I was in the DVCA, we reached a point where the internal faculty journals had reached so low a standard because they were colleagues and then they are relying on their friends to publish from there. So can we strengthen whatever is local so that it's at par with the international perspective? So ultimately I will repeat the same thing, partnership, collaboration, it is the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Mohammed Ahmed Sulub, welcome to give
Thank
final
you very
remarks.
much. I will just make it calls, a call. The first call is for African universities to be an engine of national transformation. How will they do it? We have been discussing that since this morning. The second call, that's a local call to the government of Somaliland to establish a dedicated ministry of education, higher education and research. That's also another call. Dr. Saad was also recommended that. My third, point, which is in fact triggering from Professor Emma question, which was about translating research into action, is we need universities to translate research findings into an understandable language. Many of us speak scientific languages inside the campus, say that this have a positive relationship with this and that this brings this. But what does that mean to the public? We need to translate research findings into a language that they can easily understand. Politicians have their own language of, ways of convincing them. The public have their own way. So that's very important. And then co-creating research, as Professor Ayub was saying, and Dr. Muhammad was saying, co-creating research, partnering with universities, and finally, universities need to specialize. We cannot be the best in everything. So having universities in a country that each university focuses on one discipline is, I think, the best way we can influence. Thank you very much. Those are my takeaways.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Dr. Mohammed Musa.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. My last word for African universities to become global knowledge leaders, they must combine African ownership with international collaboration. The objective should not be isolation from global research, but greater influence within it by setting their own priorities, building equitable partnerships, investing in people and infrastructure, and connecting research to policy, industry, and communities. African universities can generate African-led solutions that also contribute significantly to global knowledge. The future should therefore be one in which Africa is not simply a research site or recipient of knowledge, but a creator, owner, and exporter of knowledge and innovation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As I listen to this conversation, I think several important messages have come up. First, research cannot end with publication. We need to think about moving beyond this with influencing policy, improving services, generating innovation, and also contributing to the societies that we serve. And secondly, research excellence requires sustainable capacity. That is, we need to have collaborations. We need to have the partnerships with international and also national partners. And that global excellence and national relevance should not be competing ambitions. And finally, African universities must increasingly become actually the agenda setters. So on behalf of the University of Hargeysa and the organizers of the first University of Hargeysa International Research Conference, I would like to sincerely thank our distinguished panelists for sharing their experiences, perspectives, and leadership with us. I also thank all of you in the audience for sitting for and also listening and for your thoughtful engagement as well. Please join me in giving our distinguished panelists a warm round of applause. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the wonderful discussion.
Can I say one word to the audience? Just one.
So this marks to the end of our morning session. So from there, I'm telling you that we're going for lunch. We have 45 minutes. And before the lunch, we're going to have a photo group, all of us, outside there. So